Welcome to this guided project on getting started in Google Analytics. I am Karma, your instructor for this project. By the end of this project, you will know how to connect your website to Google Analytics and how to read the reports to better understand your website performance and effectiveness and to better understand your audience. I'm going to expand my desktop so you can see a screenshot of what your website will look like inside Google Analytics. On the left side is where we will access the various reports. On the right is an example of a report we will be reviewing in this project. In the first two tasks of this project, we will complete the steps to connect your website to Google Analytics. You will need a website to complete these tasks. And we'll also connect to a demo account. Since it can take up to 24 hours for actual data to show up for your website, we will use the demo account for the rest of this project. This will give us real data when we review the reports in Google Analytics. Before we create a Google Analytics account, we need to understand the hierarchy of Google Analytics. I'm using a presentation available on your desktop to explain this hierarchy. You can follow along on my screen. The account is the highest level. You can have more than one account. In this project, we will use one account for your website and a second account for the demo property. An account can have multiple properties. A website is a property. A property could also be an app. If you are in charge of several websites, you can manage all these websites inside one account. Each property has at least one view. A view captures the information after your filters and settings have been applied. At a minimum, each property should have two views. One view that captures all the raw data. This is automatically created when you set up the property. And then another view that you create that excludes internal traffic from your organization. We will learn how to do this and to set up this view in this project. You can also set up users at any of these levels. What the user can do at each level is dependent on the permissions they have been granted. Now that we understand the hierarchy of Google Analytics, let's create your Google Analytics account. First, you will need a Google account. I've already set up your desktop so that a web browser opens to the Google Analytics page. Click on Start for Free. You will need to either log in to your Google account or create an account. Pause the video to log in or create your account and come back when finished. You should be logged into your Google account and at this website address, analytics.google.com. Depending on the activity with your Google account, you will see a button that is labeled Start Measuring or Create Account. Click on that button. This will take you to the Create Account Setup page. Enter an account name. This can be the name of a business or organization, or it can also be your name. If you're going to be tracking more than one website, you will want to assign an account accordingly. Below are the data sharing options. This specifies how you share the data. You can be more open or more restrictive with your data based on your preferences. Pause the video to enter your account name, set up your data sharing options. When done, we will click Next below. On the next screen is where you assign the type of property you want to add. We will verify that web is selected and click Next. Now we need to add the details about your website. You will enter the name of your website, the URL of the website, select the appropriate industry and reporting time zone. Go ahead and pause the video and enter your information. When entering your website URL, be sure to select the appropriate protocol. Nowadays, most of the websites are HTTPS. When done, click on Create. Review and accept the service agreements. You may be presented with email communications at this point. Go ahead and pause the video, set these parameters to your liking, and then click Save. You'll then be presented with a tracking ID. This tracking ID needs to be installed on your website in order for Google Analytics to start tracking data. If you're using a content management system like WordPress, this can be easily done in a plugin. A popular WordPress plugin that will do this is Monster Insights. You simply take this tracking ID and put it into that plugin. Otherwise, your web developer will need to install this tracking ID on your website. You can come back to this screen at a later point to complete this step. Once a tracking ID is placed on your website, Google Analytics begins capturing data about your website visitors. Click on the back arrow at the top left. This will show us what we just set up inside Google Analytics. This is the account, the property, which is your website, and the view that was automatically created. This default view, called All Website Data, captures all traffic to your website. It is recommended to set up at least one other view for a property. This new view is used to exclude internal traffic to your website from being included in the data. This gives us a more accurate picture of your website visitors. We will do that in the next task. In this task, you set up a Google Analytics account and connect it to your website. Welcome back. In the previous task, we learned about the hierarchy in Google Analytics, how to set up a Google Analytics account, and how to add your website. In this task, we will learn how to set up a view to eliminate internal traffic to your website. This gives us a more accurate picture of your website audience. We will also connect to the demo account. If you need to, log back in to your Google Analytics account. As we learned in the previous task, a default view called All Website Data is automatically created when we create a new property. It is recommended to leave this view as is, so we will always have a view capturing all of our traffic. Before we create another view, verify that you are using your website property by observing the property listed under the property column. Now click on Create View at the top of the View column. In the new Reporting View screen, verify that website is selected. Then enter a name for this view. Let's call it Master View. Set your time zone if needed, and then click on Create. We're now going to add a filter to this view to eliminate internal traffic. To do this, you will need to know the IP address or the range of IP addresses used by your business that you want to eliminate. If you need to enter a range of IP addresses used by your business, contact your IT department or web developer to get those addresses. If you maintain your own website, you can enter the IP address of your computer. This is what we will do in this example. I will show you how to find the IP address for your computer in just a minute. Now to add a filter to this view, select Filters in the View column. Click Add Filter. Enter a filter name. We will call it Eliminate Internal Traffic. Under Filter Type, select Predefined. In the drop-down below that, select Exclude. To the right, in Select Source or Destination, select Traffic from the IP addresses. In the Select Expression drop-down, choose that are equal to. If you are using a range of IP addresses, you will choose that begin with. Now we need your IP address. To find your IP address, open a new window and go to a website, whatismyip.com. This will show your IP addresses at the top left. Highlight and copy that IP address, return to your Google Analytics tab, and paste that IP address in the IP address field. If you're entering a range of IP addresses, your steps will differ slightly. When done, click Save. You now know how to create a master view that eliminates tracking internal traffic on your website. You'll notice on this screen, the filter you just created is now listed. Let's take a look at some other features before we proceed. We have set up a new view. Notice in the View column, we see our new view listed as Master View. We can click on that drop-down to see the original view also. We'll leave that as Master View. Notice in each column we also have User Management. Under Property, Property User Management, and Account User Management. We can enter any of these options to add and manage users at that level. Notice also under the Property column, we have Tracking Info. Under Tracking Info, we have access to our tracking code. If we need to install a tracking ID on our website at some future point, this is where we can find it. Once a tracking ID is installed on your website, Google Analytics will begin tracking visitors to your site and aggregating the data. Since this can take a while to get enough data to show in reports, we are going to use a demo account for the rest of this project. This demo account will provide us real-time data for us to review. Let's connect to the demo account. I opened a page on your browser called Demo Account. Click on that. On this page, scroll down to where you see the option to access Demo Account. Click on that option. As long as you're signed into your Google Analytics account, it will automatically connect to the demo account. You may have to set some email communications option. Pause this video and set these options, and then return. Now have access to the demo account. Notice at the top left, it shows the account and the view that we are using. In this task, we created a second view that we can use to eliminate internal traffic from our data. And we connected the demo to the demo account so we have real data to look at for the remainder of this project. In the next task, we will learn how Google Analytics organizes and presents the data. Welcome back. In the previous task, we set up a new view to eliminate internal traffic. This gives us a more accurate picture of your website audience. We also connected to the demo account provided by Google. In this task, we will discover how Google Analytics organizes the data. To understand this, we need to understand what is referred to as the funnel. I'm going to return to the slideshow to explain this concept. A funnel is a common concept in the marketing world. A basic funnel follows these steps: acquisition, behavior, conversion. Acquisition is getting people to visit your website. Behavior is how users engage with your website. Conversion is when a visitor becomes a customer, making some kind of transaction on your website. Notice how the funnel narrows as we progress through it. This is indicative of the number of people at each level. Google Analytics presents information on reports following this funnel sequence. For example, it tracks how people find your website, the acquisition level. It tracks how visitors engage with your website, the behavior level. It tracks if the visitor makes some kind of transaction or purchase on your website, the conversion level. If you need to log back into your Google Analytics account, glance at the left side menu. You may need to either expand or collapse a section of this menu, depending on how your menu shows. Notice the last three sections under the Reports section: Acquisition, Behavior, Conversions. We see the funnel that we talked about just a bit ago. Inside each of these sections are a set of reports giving us more information about that level in the funnel. I am using the demo account. The menu that we see on the left-hand side is the main menu, and it'll be the same no matter for which account that you are using. Let's go deeper into each of these sections, plus review the other sections of the menu. We'll start at the top. The Home option presents a dashboard that provides a high-level view of how your site is performing, including number of visitors, how they found your site, where they live, etc. You can create your own dashboards under Customization, right below the Home option. Real-time reports let you look at live user behavior on your website. Audience reports show the characteristics of your visitors, like age, gender, where they live, interest, etc. Acquisition reports show you what brought the visitors to your site. They might be an advertisement or a marketing campaign. These different avenues are referred to as channels. The behavior reports show how people are engaged with your site. It includes which pages are viewed, which page did they land on when they came to your site, and which page they exited on, and so much more. The conversions report allows you to track e-commerce and your website goals, which are defined by you. For example, you can create your goals based on your business objectives. This topic is beyond the scope of this project, so we won't cover it here. Notice how we progressed down the funnel: acquisition, behavior, conversions. We will also notice the funnel inside some of the standard reports, which we will cover later in this project. At the bottom of the menu is the admin option, where you can configure your settings, add properties and views, and add or manage users. Now that we understand how Google Analytics organizes the information, let's learn how to navigate a report inside Google Analytics. We will do that in the next task. Welcome back. In the previous task, we learned how Google Analytics uses the funnel to organize the data and present the data as a progression through the funnel. In this task, we will take a look at our first report. We will learn how to navigate a report, interpret the most common metrics, and how to set parameters for a report. If you need to, log back in to your Google Analytics accounts. At the top left of the interface is a drop-down where we select the property and view we want to use. For this task, select the master view for the demo site. As we saw in the previous task, the reports are organized on the left-hand side menu. Click on any of these options to expand that menu. From this menu, let's select the Audience Overview report. Click on Audience and select Overview. We will use this report to become familiar with setting parameters for a report and understand the most common metrics. The actual numbers on your report will be different than mine. This report defaults to showing you data from the most recent week. Since you will be previewing this report at some later point, the numbers on your report will be different. That's okay. We are focusing on what we can learn from the numbers versus the actual numbers. On most of the standards report, you will see a line graph at the top of the report, as we see here. In this case, the line graph shows us number of users, indicated by the drop-down at the top left. Users is an example of what Google Analytics calls a metric. A metric is a quantitative measurement. In this case, it's a number of users. We notice a number of metrics below the graph. This is a quick visual of the more common metrics used to determine how our website is performing. Let's discuss what each of these metrics mean. Users is the total number of users that visited your site within the specified date range at the top right. New users, right next to it, are the total number of new users or visitors to your website. The next metric is sessions. For simplicity's sake, a session is a user's visit to your site. The sessions metric will usually be more than the number of users, as a user may return to your site multiple times, giving us more sessions than the total number of users. This is also reflected in the next metric, sessions per user. Page views is the number of pages viewed in the specified date range, while the metric next to this, pages session, is the average number of pages a visitor viewed while on your site. Average session duration is the average amount of time a visitor stayed on your site. The bounce rate is an important metric. It shows the percentage of visitors that left your site after viewing just one page. The lower the bounce rate, the better. The lower number indicates visitors are going to more than just one page on your site. Let's look at some of the other parameters we can adjust on a report. At the top right is the date range. Click on the drop-down to select a different date range or enter your own date range. It defaults to the previous week. Be sure to click Apply at the bottom of this drop-down for the date range to take effect. Feel free to pause the video and experiment with different date ranges. At the top left of the graph, you can define segments. It defaults to all users. A segment is a subset of your data. For example, you can use segments to show only the data for visitors from a certain country or even a city. Below this is the Overview tab. Currently, the line graph shows the number of users to your site within the date range specified. You can change this metric by clicking on the arrow next to users and selecting a different metric. For example, we can show pages per session. At the top right of the graph is a duration selector. It defaults to day. You can change this to hourly, weekly, or monthly. Keep in mind that the duration selector will stay within the date range you specified above this. The pie chart on the right is a visual representation of new versus returning visitors. Now that we understand how to set parameters in a report, in the next task, we will take a closer look at some of the audience reports in Google Analytics. Welcome back. In the previous task, we learned how to navigate a report, how to interpret the most common metrics, and how to set parameters for a report. In this task, we're going to explore some of the audience reports inside Google Analytics and how they can influence decisions. If you need to, log back into your Google Analytics account. Select the master view of the demo account at the top left of your screen. You'll notice the Audience section under Reports on the left side. These reports reveal the characteristics of our site's visitors. Notice the sections under Audience. The name of these sections indicate the characteristics we can discover about our audience, such as demographics, which includes age and gender, interest, geo, short for geography, which includes location and language, technology, etc. We are already familiar with the Overview report, which we navigated in the previous task. If we go under Demographics option, we see age and gender. These reports give us a lot of detail about age groups and gender of our audience. Select the Age report. We can click on any of the age groups in the data table and learn about the gender of our audience. Select the Gender report. We can click on the gender in the data table and learn more about the age groups of that particular gender. However, we can go down another level. The ability to drill down is common in many of the data tables of the various reports. It allows us to see other dimensions within a primary dimension of our audience. For example, if we click on any of the age groups within the data table, we now discover the interest of the age groups. This is valuable information when it comes to determining our marketing strategy. Note, however, to capture this kind of information, we need to have that option turned on in our settings. To do this, go to the Property settings under Admin. Turn on the option to Enable Demographics and Interest Reports. Notice mine is already turned on. You will also need to verify that another option is turned on for this to work. This option is also under the Property. Select Tracking Info, Data Collection. The option to turn on here is the Advertising Reporting features. Both of these need to be turned on to capture the interest of your audience. Let's return to our audience reports. There are also interest reports. Click on the Overview option under Interest. This report shows the top 10 interests in 3 different areas. The affinity categories are overall interest and lifestyle of visitors to your website. The in-market segment categories are visitors actively searching for your type of product or service. The other category is everything outside of these 2 areas. These types of reports help you better focus your advertising efforts. It may lead you to more targeted ad placements or an understanding who is more inclined to purchase your products or services. The next section under Audience is Geo. The 2 reports in this section are Language and Location. Click on Language. This report breaks out the languages spoken by your audience. Click on Location. This report uses a map overlay to give you a geographical perspective of where your audience is located. You can click on the map to drill down to specific areas. Pause the video, click on an area and see how far you can drill down. If you drill down, you found that you could drill down to the city level. The information from these geo reports might identify potential new markets, or you might find a significant high bounce rate in a certain location. You might want to explore why this is happening for that particular culture. The next section of reports we'll take a look at is Technology. Select the Browser and OS option. This tells you what browser, even down to the version of the browser, and operating system your visitors are using. You want to be sure that your site presents well on the hardware and software platforms being used. There are other audience reports as well. Feel free to pause the video to explore these reports if you'd like. As you can see, audience reports provide a lot of information about the characteristics of your audience. In this task, we learned about some of the audience reports and how the information on these reports help us make better decisions. In the next task, we will cover the remaining sections of reports inside Google Analytics. Welcome back. In the previous task, we reviewed some of the audience reports inside Google Analytics and how that information can influence your decisions. In this task, we're going to look at the remaining sections of reports. I call these the funnel sections. If you need to, log back into your Google Analytics account. Select the master view of the demo account. The remaining sections of reports fit within the funnel we discussed earlier. Glance at the left side menu at the last 3 sections: Acquisition, Behavior, Conversions. The conversion reports have to do with e-commerce and goals, which is beyond the scope of this project. Let's explore the reports under the Acquisition and Behavior sections. The acquisition reports tells us more about where our traffic is coming from and how the visitors to our site are finding our website. Under Acquisition, click on Overview for a high-level perspective. The Top Channels widget at the top left of this report provides a visual of traffic sources or channels. Let's define some of the more common channels. The organic search channel is when a visitor types in a search term and they find your site. This is on-page search versus page search, which is another type of channel. The direct channel indicates that the visitor typed in your URL directly in the browser. The referral channel is traffic that came from another website. The social channel is traffic that came from social networks like Facebook or Twitter. The page search channel includes visitors that clicked on an ad you purchased. These ads show up in search engine results like Google or Bing. The display channel indicates visitors who came to your site by clicking on an ad on another website. The overview report includes a data table that shows how traffic came from the various channels and how they progress through the funnel. Notice the funnel levels going from left to right: acquisition, behavior, conversions. Also notice the metrics used within each level. This is a common layout for the data tables in many of the standard reports. Under Acquisition in the main menu is a section called All Traffic. Click on the Channels option under All Traffic. This report shows the data behind the visual pie chart we just observed in the Overview report. Notice again, metrics are displayed as they pertain to the funnel progression from left to right: acquisition, behavior, metrics, and conversions. The organic search channel, the first row in this data table, gives us an idea how our SEO, or search engine optimization, is performing at each level of the funnel. SEO improves your site's visibility and the user's experience. We can also tell how paid channels are performing in this report, or we can observe how much traffic our postings and interactions on social media is producing by observing the metrics for the social channel. Click on the Referrals report under All Traffic. This shows us which sites are sending traffic to our site, including our social networks. Again, we see the same metrics grouped into the 3 different levels of the funnel. There are other reports under Acquisition that show you information about specific marketing options, such as Google Ads, social, and other campaigns. Now let's move to the behavior reports. These reports reveal how visitors engage with your site, which is the second level in the funnel. Click on Site Content, then select All Pages. This report shows you the most popular pages on your website. Some metrics to take note of include average time on page and bounce rate. These metrics tell how much time visitors spend on your most popular pages and if they are visiting other pages on your site after this page. You want your top pages to have higher average time than other pages and lower bounce rates. To determine where your visitors are entering your site, select the Landing Pages report under Site Content. This tells you what pages your visitors are first viewing on your site. Again, you want these pages to have low bounce rates. In this report, the pages per session and the average session duration can give you an idea of the level of engagement with your site. To see which pages visitors are exiting your site, select the Exit Pages report. You may want to review the content on these pages to see if you can keep the visitors engaged with your site. There are other behavior reports as well. Feel free to pause the video to explore these reports. By observing the various metrics on these reports, you will get an idea if you need to update content, make content more relevant, or add an opt-in or some kind of form to invite more engagement. There are many other reports available inside Google Analytics, not to mention creating your own reports, which will be covered in another project. In this course, you connected your website to Google Analytics, set up an additional view to exclude tracking internal traffic, learn about the organization of Google Analytics, and became familiar with navigating the various reports inside Google Analytics. You also became familiar with how to use this information to improve your website performance and meet your audience needs. Thank you for taking this guided project and getting started in Google Analytics.